Notts crumble under pressure from Siddle, Beard and Porter.
Nottinghamshire's nightmare season goes on. They're still the only side in Division 1 yet to win a game, and they went up against one of the form teams, with wins against Hampshire and Somerset taking Essex into second. They would be hoping that the return of Ravichandran Ashwin may add a new dynamic to their game as they seeked that elusive first victory. Despite winning the toss, their batting innings wouldn't get off to the best of starts. Porter, coming off the back of a 9-wicket haul against Somerset, pitched up and found Duckett's edge to see the Notts opener out for 8. Mullaney would start his innings in defiant mood, freeing his arms as he found and then began to clear the fence. Slater wasn't able to stay with him though, his own watchful innings brought to an end by an impressive catch from keeper Wheater off the bowling of Beard. The captain's 50 would come a few overs later though, as the lunch interval beckoned. It was reached with Notts on 97 for 2. It had been a relatively solid start by Notts, and despite the loss of both Duckett and Slater cheaply, the performance of Mullaney had been a boost of confidence. But the morning's good work was about to come undone as Mullaney and Nash saw the score tick past 100. The young Beard, so effervescent in the last match, picked up his second of the match, Nash feathering through to Wheater. Mullaney would follow 2 overs later out the same way, gone for 74. The enthusiasm of youth gave way to experience as Peter Siddle found himself in the wickets. Clark trapped LBW for 15, Notts now 5 down. Ashwin was the next man to go, trapped LBW for 5 by Porter. And Moores was out without troubling the scorers, bowled by Harmer. Porter then picked up another, Fletcher only able to add 1 before he was out LBW. But in Broad and Patel, Notts would find a partnership to stabilise their innings, reaching tea 8 down but knocking on the door of 200.
They go past the 200 mark after the restart, another boundary from Broad bringing up the batting point for his side, just their 10th of the season. The experienced Patel wouldn't be able to add many more to the total, trapped LBW for 39 for Siddle's second. And that wicket would see the end of the Notts resistance. Jake Ball, the last man out, caught behind for 1, the side all out for 213. It had been another difficult day at the office for Nottinghamshire, only captain Stephen Mullaney producing an innings of real note. 5 of his colleagues out for single figures. Alistair Cook must have faced Stuart Broad countless times in the nets on England duty, but the bowler had the upper hand this time, finding the edge to dismiss his former captain for just 2. Nick Browne and Tom Wesley did well to resist, and they found time to hit the occasional boundary, taking Essex past 50. The score, 72 for 1 when Stumps was called. A good day of cricket for Essex. They'd done well to keep Nottinghamshire at bay. The away side may be shot of confidence, but in conditions heavily favouring batting, just Mullaney had managed to pick up a score above 50, whilst too many Notts batsmen had been out cheaply. They'll be hoping they can get some quick wickets to drag them back into the contest, but Essex trail by just 141 runs heading into day 2.
Nick Browne outshines international stars to put Essex in charge. Essex have been building up a bit of a head of steam in recent weeks, and they carried that momentum into their bowling effort against a low-on-confidence Notts on day 1. Beard, Porter and Siddle picking up 3 wickets apiece as they bowled their opponents out for 213. Even the loss of Cook late in the day did nothing to derail Essex's charge. They'd reached 72 by the close of play, with Browne and Wesley looking set at the crease. However, when they resumed on day 2, the first 8 overs of the day would bring just 8 runs. Broad and Ashwin combining well to keep Essex quiet. The first boundaries of the day came from Wesley's bat, targeting Ashwin as he moved into the 40s. Ashwin would have the last laugh, his next over bringing his first wicket for Notts, Wesley edging the spinner to Mullaney at slip for 42. Browne would plough on, a half-century coming as he struck ball for a 4 through the offside. Essex would continue to target debutant Ashwin, and the Indian international would suffer, Lawrence hitting him for 3 consecutive 4s early in his innings. They reached lunch on 155 for 2, just 58 runs short of their hosts' first innings total. Essex would take their time as the game restarted, Browne and Lawrence playing themselves back in, and that patience was rewarded, Lawrence picking up a deserved 50 as his side approached 200. He'd bring the 100 partnership up with a 4 smacked back over Patel's head. Browne was now in the 90s and helped his side past Notts' first innings total. The wicket of Lawrence, though, came in the next over, bowled by Fletcher for 64. But nothing would stop Browne reaching his century. 4 runs off Fletcher, helping him to his 15th ton in first-class cricket. When tea was called, Essex were 241 for 3, already 28 runs ahead and looking to set a decent advantage. Browne had now eclipsed his season's top score and showed no signs of stopping. He and Bopara accelerating at the restart, chasing another batting bonus point. The Essex opener would reach his 150 with yet another 4 off Ashwin as Essex ticked past 300, the lead now close to 100. Bopara would fire his way to a 50 soon afterwards, a 4 off one-time England teammate Patel, taking him to his 56th first-class half-century. And still, they batted on, Notts unable to find a way to break the partnership, Essex reaching the close of play at 345 for 3, with a lead of 132. Despite all the international talent on show at Trent Bridge, it had been an uncapped one-county man who'd shone brightest. Nick Browne's unbeaten 163 had put his side into the driving seat, and Essex will look to increase their lead as much as possible before putting their hosts back in to bat sometime on day 3. Bopara hits 150 as Essex dominate at Trent Bridge. Nick Browne passed 150 as Essex dominated Notts on day 2 at Trent Bridge. Ravi Ashwin and Stuart Broad kept things tight, but the hosts were only able to claim 2 wickets in the day, whilst Essex built an imposing lead of 132 runs, with 7 first innings wickets still remaining at the halfway point of the contest. Notts were able to make the breakthrough they were desperate for as Broad trapped the Centurion Nick Browne LBW from just the 4th ball of the day. That brought Tenderskata to the wicket to join Bopara, but after a couple of early boundaries he became Ashwin's second victim after 50 overs of toil as he was pinned in front. But Essex decided to accelerate their scoring in response as newman Wheater found the boundary 4 times in quick succession to move his side past the 400 mark. He too, though, was trapped LBW by Ashwin as he tried one sweep too many. Bopara remained through to bring up a chanceless second 100 of the season with a single off Fletcher.
And more boundaries meant Bopara and Harmer saw their side to the interval in complete control at 457 for 6, leading by an imposing 244. Stuart Broad had plugged away diligently for much of the Essex innings, and he made another breakthrough for Notts early in the afternoon as Harmer edged him behind to Moores. That brought Siddle to the crease, the Australian making hay, clubbing Patel and Ashwin for sixes as Essex moved past 500. But Siddle's cameo came to an end when he picked Broad in the deep off ball. And when the same combination accounted for Bopara 3 balls later, Essex decided enough was enough, declaring on 519 for 9 with a massive lead of 306, and Notts staring at another championship defeat. The hosts had a nightmare start as skipper Stephen Mullaney shouldered arms to a ball from Porter that rearranged his stumps. Nash found the rope a couple of times as he looked to steady the ship in partnership with Slater, but he was trapped in front by Siddle to leave Notts in trouble again. Clark and Slater both picked up boundaries before the tea interval, but with Notts 2 down and still nearly 300 behind, they had a mountain to climb in the final session of the day. Clark and Slater looked to steady the ship in the final session and were successful for the first few overs. That before a calamitous mix-up between the pair saw Slater run out and Notts in deep trouble. Things went from bad to worse soon after, with Joe Clark's struggles continuing as he was strangled down the leg side by Beard. Duckett's not one to die wondering though, and he went on the attack in a partnership with Patel as they clubbed a succession of boundaries. Their stand had moved to 46 before Harmer struck late in the day, having Patel caught by Cook at slip. That meant Notts reached stumps at 100 for 5, facing another defeat as their championship woes continue. Essex march on as Notts' relegation worries deepened with another defeat. When Nottinghamshire finished day 3 on 100 for 5, still trailing by 206 with just 5 wickets in hand, it looked like all Essex would need to do was turn up on the final day at Trent Bridge to seal what looked like a routine win. Notts would probably have to rely on Ben Duckett, bumped down the order to number 6 if they were to hold any hopes of making Essex bat again. But the Notts batsman would be unable to add many to his overnight score of 32, edging Harmer through to Wheater, out for 39. There'd be a sense of déjà vu as Fletcher also nicked one through to the keeper, Harmer with another. Moores and Ashwin would stay together long enough to see Notts past 150. The keeper plundered 3 boundaries off Beard to get his side there, but he'd go in the same over, edging the bowler onto his own stumps for 14. They did survive through to lunch without further loss, the new man Broad yet to score. The England bowler would go shortly after the restart, trapped LBW for 6 by the impressive Harmer. And Porter would wrap up the victory. Ashwin on his Notts debut caught by Siddle to go for 35, Essex sealing the win by an innings and 123 runs. Whilst leaders Somerset also picked up an impressive win at home to Hampshire, Essex looked to have hit their stride at the right moment. There's an air of invincibility about the outfit, who despite losing a little ground to the West Country side, have increased the gap between themselves and the chasing pack. Notts' miserable season goes on. They've now lost 5 of their county championship fixtures this season and never looked in the game. With Warwickshire heading for a draw in Canterbury, their relegation fears are deepening. They'll hope a change in fortune in the second half of the season will prevent a return to Division 2 and a first winless season since 1967.
That was